In this part of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a client, a desktop client for a Java-based RESTful web service that we created in the previous tutorial. And we have here the random person app that was created previously. And in this one we have a person entity that contains ID, name and age. And then based on this one we created a facade that is also a RESTful web service with different post and put and delete and get methods. And in this web service we are going to use particularly, we use the post to send a new, to create a new person into the database using this path. And then we also use the random person, and it's a get method under the path random, which is appended to the person path. So those two methods will be used in this example application that we will build. So in order to build a desktop client, I have created now a simple Java application project, normal standard Java, nothing fancy here. And here we have a class with a main method. But before we start coding, we have to add some libraries. We need to add Apache HTTPClient library as well as the JSON library for converting an object into JSON and back. So I've already added here, if I look at the files of the project, I have under libs, I have these jar files. I have commons login, I have JSON from Google, then I have HTTP client and HTTP core, part of the Apache library. So those will be added to the build path. And how to do that? Well, we right click the project, we go to properties, and then under libraries, okay, it seems that they are added already here, but if you don't have them here, you click add jar folder, then you navigate to the project folder where it is and the libs or wherever you have those jar files, and then you add them to your project. And then they appear here under libraries. And now we can use them in our project. But now we still need one more file, which is the person entity. Well, actually, we will remove all the entity markers, but we can copy this file. We create here first a package with the same name, beans. So these beans will be the same than beans here. And then we take this person and we copy it and paste here. You can see there are some errors because this project does not know about this entity library, JPA entity library. So we can simply remove all those annotations. They have no meaning in the client application because we are not using JPA on the client side. So these can be removed. And now it's a Pojo plain old Java file, plain old Java object with an ID, name and age. So it's identical from Java perspective to this one on the server side. And meaningfully, you should have it also in the same package, preferably. Right, and then we can actually proceed with creating this one. The first thing, we need to define a couple of connection strings that will be used to send the request. So we need one connection string for get and another one for post. It's a constant, and this string, well, I have ready here, but it's on the local host. And after that we put the name of the application, which in our case is random person app. And after that we write web resources and slash, then the path name. So in here, in this case, we use the path person, and in case of the get method we use this one, so we add there also random. So person slash random, right, that. And then the path for the post, we copy paste this one, just change it to post. We just use the person without the random. So here we are going to call the post method on this path, which means this one here. See, there is no path here, so this post belongs to this path. So we are going to call this create method using this URL. Okay, so constants have been defined, and here in the main method I simply create a new random person client and call go method. So we'll add this go method here. Actually, in a real application you may want to create a thread and do the networking in a thread, but to keep it simple I'll do it in the main thread. So the first thing to do is we want to create a new person that we will send to the web service. We have the person file here, person.java. And then we set the person name. That should be set name, not get name, of course. Set age. Right. Now we have a person, and we are going to create another method called test post that will accept the person object, and then we'll send it to the server. So let's write this test post. It accepts a person object, and then it will initiate the connection to the server. So this process is a little bit complicated, but it follows almost more or less the same principles, same method calls and so on. So once you do it, you can repeat it quite easily. So in order to send this person object, we need to convert it first to JSON. And to do that, it's pretty simple. We first create a new JSON object. This is the Google's library for converting back and forth from JSON. So JSON equals new JSON, and then one line command we can convert it. So we introduce a new string JSON, and then call JSON dot, and here you can see methods. We can have a from JSON and to JSON. In this case we select to JSON using the object, and here we put the person object. Right, so now after this line we have the string representation or JSON representation of the person object. Pretty cool. And then we prepare the HTTP connection. So we need to have HTTP client object that will handle the connection. There is a static method on the HTTP client builder called create, and then on that one we still call build. We need to import some things. Now we don't use the SONs, we use the Apache's HTTP client library, and of course we can use it because we added it to the library path. And then we create also HTTP post method object. When we do the get, then we of course use HTTP get. And here as input we can give the path. So we will use this post path. Okay, and then we need to tell to the server what the content type is that we are going to send. What is the type, what is the MIME type of the input that we are going to send to the web service. So we'll do it by writing HTTP response, post add header content type. Content type header is used for defining the type, MIME type of the content that we are going to send to the server. In this case it's application JSON because we have the JSON string here. If you send XML, then you use application/XML and so on. And now it's time to actually post the request. So first we need to create a string entity that will hold the JSON data. And we put this JSON data there. And then we set the entity on the post. Import, of course. We need to surround it with try catch. And actually we put all this code inside try catch anyway, so let's just copy it there. Right, so that's the setting the entity, and next thing to do is to actually execute the request, and we get an HTTP response as a result. So we call the HTTP client, this here, .execute. You see it takes multiple parameters, but we will use the HTTP post as the parameter, this one. This will also throw an exception, which must be cough. Okay, the HTTP response has a code, the HTTP code that we can check. So we can do if response get status line, get status code. So this could be any number that the server is returning. In case of 204, it's success. 204 means that the request was successful, but there is no content to return. Because we call this create method and it returns void, so there is no content to return, and therefore the result is 204. If you go to Wikipedia, HTTP status codes, you can see all the list of different status codes. So in this case we have this 204 no content. The server successfully processed the request but is not returning any content. So this will be if our request is successful. So we can print out something. Post request sent successfully. And we can also have there the JSON string, so you can see how it looks like. In other case, if we get any other error code, we can write it out to the console. And we just use the same status code here. Okay, so that's the post method basically. We can now still write the get method, so we write also get. It's quite similar to post, there are a couple of differences. So let's write here also the private void test get. Actually here we could return the person object. And then print out the random person. Just the name. Okay, we are using the very same variable again, so I'll just do like this. And we don't get any arguments, of course. Right, so here we also use the same HTTP client code. We build it using exactly the same way. But instead of HTTP post that we used here, we use HTTP get. And well, the parameter is the same, except that we use different path now. So we don't use the post, we use the get. Because we are not going to send anything, the get random person doesn't require any inputs, so we don't need to set the content type, but it returns something. So we set the header to accept. So we tell to the server what kind of content we accept as a return value. In this case, the content type is the same than with the post. We use application JSON. So the server is going to return us JSON. So this one produces should match this accept value, same value here. Right. And now we also use the HTTP entity. And we also use person object that will be the result. And then, because we don't have any input, we don't need to set any content there. Like here we set the string entity to the post. We don't need to do that here. So we simply do the request. We get the response. Similar way, client execute, and we give this get as the parameter. It will throw an exception, so we will surround it with try catch. In this case, we also check the status code. So we get the responses, the status code. In this case, success means 200. So if it's not 200, we print out an error. Let's say get error, and we print out the status code. For example, in this method, we could get an error 404 if there are no persons. So then we would go to this if statement. Okay, we are missing one more parenthesis there. And in this case, if it's an error, we simply return null. If everything is okay, then we can get the object from the response. It's going to be an HTTP entity. Get entity, and then we can convert the entity to string by using the entity utils. It's also part of the Apache library. There is a method toString that takes HTTP entity as a parameter, and it's of course it's a string. It's a JSON string basically. And then we can convert JSON back to an object. And how to do that? We again create the JSON object. And we assign it, well actually we already have a variable here, so we take this one. JSON from JSON. So we give here the JSON string and the type. So in this case we are going to use the person class as the type. So this is very easy. We just convert a string to a person class. And that's pretty much it. At the end we can return the person object that we receive from the server. That's it. So you see, it's quite similar thing. We create the HTTP client, we create either get or post, and then possibly we add some parameters, like here we add a string entity there, and finally we execute the request and process the output. So the get and post can be done in quite similar ways using this library. Okay, but let's add another person there so we can get some variation before we run it. P2, different name, different age, and we post them both to the server and then get randomly one of them. So it depends on what we have. It might be a John or it might be Teemu, but well, let's see. We are ready to run it. Let's execute. Oh dear, null pointer exception. we do get some problem on the server. You see error occurred in post 500, and the person client will be a null pointer exception because we are trying to use the get name. So probably we should check here if p is not null, only then we do the printing. But more interestingly, the error here 500, it means internal server error, and this means that something bad happened on the server. So let's have a look at the Glassfish log, see what actually was wrong. We can expand it. Okay, this is the last error exception that occurred, but before that we got the 500. Okay, there is a problem executing get random person. That was because of this 404. But how about here? Client not authorized this invocation. Well, to be honest, I don't know what's wrong. Let me find it out and get back to you in a moment. Well, actually the problem was solved after I cleaned and built the project, server project again. No changes to the code, just clean and build and deploy. Well, it should be deployed automatically, but just in case, deploy. And then if we run it again, it works. We don't we don't get the same error anymore. And we can run it again. Okay, now it's John. Not very random, I would say. Now it's demo. Okay. So this is how it works, how the HTTP client of the Apache works. If you are coding with Android, if you want to make an Android client, you can use pretty much the same code. HTTP client library is part of Android framework, so you can use it. It's already there, just use it. You don't need to import any libraries. For Android, you have to create another thread or async task to handle HTTP communication, so you cannot do it in main thread. It's not allowed. So for that you need a dedicated thread. But that's it for now. Now you already should be able to create a RESTful web service using Java, and also the client using Apache's HTTP client library.